She's in the kitchen, burning up some toast. She's thinking of the episodes in life she hated most. She's hungry and she's tired and she's weary of the ghost.
I'd like to welcome Craig Werth to the Mostly Folk studio today. I think that many of the people in the local area, Margaretville, Roxbury, Fleischman's, or this whole area, know Craig, or they've heard the name Craig Werth before. And Craig, believe it or not, grew up in this area. There's lots of stories we have to talk about, especially related to this area, but I thought I'd let Craig offer an explanation of his journey here and beyond. So, Craig, I'm throwing it open to you.
So here and beyond. So we have about 7.5 hours. I'll give you this. I'll start here and beyond. Yeah, I'll quickly say I grew up a shy kid on Long Island, on the South Shore of Long Island, New York. And when my dad lost his job in the 70s, early 70s, a lot of engineering layoffs, we were without any income. And we sold our house and we had to move in with my aunt in Fleischman's, New York. And that started, I didn't know we would take root there, or certainly I would. But my folks got back on their feet and they eventually moved on to New Hampshire in another couple of years. But I said, please, I want to stay here. I love the Catskills. So I was in love in the Catskills, may I say, at Margaretville Central School. And I just was also this shy kid. I was starting to come out of myself and to present my music, which I always had from a very young age. I started to share it with a couple people and then 3 people. And then I was in some school plays, and Margaretville was a place where I could do that. Long Island, where I grew up, was gigantic. And I was one of, thousands in this Margaretville Central School, this little pond. It was intimate and warm and friendly for me. And that helped me go outside and to be, to share what I had with other people and to connect the way I did. So it was I say it's certainly one of the seminal places, the root zones of all my creativity and my music work after that.
Yeah. You mentioned that you moved in with your aunt, and your aunt is?
She was Vera Brett Morris. She had the Brush Ridge Lodge on Brush Ridge Road, I think, in Fleischman's, and ski lodge. And we had to move in with her for, I think, about a year or so. And she was great. She's long gone. She and Uncle Harry, but she was great. And I came very close, I should mention, with the De Benedetto family there, who are throughout the region. And I lived with their family for a better part of 2 years, working on the dairy farm while I stayed at Margaretville Central. So they're still dear friends today, especially Michael De Benedetto.
Yeah. Great people. And you were so lucky that you had the opportunity to spend time with them, because I'm sure they taught you a lot, and they're just amazing, an amazing couple, Peg and Mike. And so my first introduction to you was when I actually began broadcasting at WROX in Roxbury. There was a DJ there, Bob Akashek, who has since passed away, but Bob was one of the real influences behind the radio station. One day he walked into the studio while I was on the air, and he threw a CD down. He said, "You have to listen to this CD." Wow. And he said, "This is a local guy who grew up in this area." He said, "Wait until you hear the CD." Of course, I listened to the CD and was blown away by it. And that was your first record. And tell me about that whole experience. And after you left Margaretville, how did you get into the music industry?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. I think, I played locally. I would just do open mics and things like that. Mostly I just composed and played for myself and with friends. But I know I think one of the kickoffs was I entered a songwriting contest in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. Two of them. One was about a theme was a gondola, which is a primitive boat from the culture out here. And there was a songwriting contest. And I came in second in that one. And I just said, whoa, that's cool. And
Wow.
some folks know my work. Then I entered the Prescott Arts, which was a bigger festival. And the judges for that songwriting competition were folk DJs from this region, and Christine Lavin was a judge. And I got first place in that contest.
Wow.
Not that I love competing with other songwriters, but it was my chance to be seen.
Yeah.
And then I got some shows from that. Some folks had coffee houses and things like that when they heard me play that song. And that got me seeing myself more as potentially a professional. And I've always done it I shouldn't say I haven't done it all part-time, because in 2006, David Francey of Canada noticed me at a coffee house, at the Kennebunk Coffee House in Maine. And we became friendly. He heard my album and he asked me if I would consider being his accompanist and arranger. And I said yes, and I left my cushy job at the university, and we dropped our income dramatically, and I toured the world with David for about 5 years, and we're still great friends. But that also, he graciously let me play within his shows, so I would support him on every song that he did. I'd also have like 3 songs of my own I could do in many of the shows, and that got me out in a sort of more a global audience, in a small way. But I've kept active. I haven't done full albums much in a while. I'm working on one now. But every couple of years, I've done a song for a sampler that got distributed to folk radio, and that would get noticed again or get seen, get heard. And so every couple of years, I've been putting myself out there as a writer and a performer that way, and just kind of stayed active and stayed, sort of in the family of artists out there. Yeah.
I do want to talk to you more about your relationship with Dick Tucker, but I'd also like you to play a couple of tunes for us here today.
Sure.
And maybe you could play the song that you won that contest with. That whatever you want to play.
Thank you.
Anything you do is going to be fine with me.
Oh, thank you. I tell you, I have a favorite that I've been playing for a bit. That's it's got my dad in it, but it's got a lot of things in it. But I'd like to play this one if I could start. This is just quickly. This was inspired by something my father's cousin said at my dad's memorial, which I was helping put together. And I'd never heard this story, but Richard, just a quiet, wonderful man, very warm-hearted. He told this story about my dad and he, when they knew that the first television in the neighborhood was going to be bought, it was bought by the person across the street, and they decided to watch that TV through Richard's living room window into the living room window across the street, and they spent hours watching the first ever television in their neighborhood through 2 panes of glass from a distance, fascinated by the images that they could barely see. And that got me thinking about technology, which I love and I'm a big fan of, and I usually have the latest of, but also the shiny things that kind of pull me away from some of what's most important in my life. And so this song has a bunch of things. It's got my dad's story, but it's also got my own consideration of what I want to pay attention to in my life the most. It's called Mr. Barker's Magic Box. Word wound down the road, Mr. Barker bought a box. It's filled with moving pictures. It even sings and talks. Well, I heard they'd been invented, but I never thought I'd see such a wondrous gadget land so close to me.
Our neighbor is the banker who owns the empty barn across the way from the Barker place. Well, it could do no harm if I climbed up to the window. I'm pretty certain I could see that magic box at the Barker house. Sounds like a plan to me. I grabbed the old binoculars Dad had from the war. I was on a secret mission, one I'd not been on before, and I climbed up quick and quiet, best sneak that I could do. Soon as I peeked across the street, I saw that magic blue. And I watched through those binoculars till my eyes were dry and red. There was a man's head talking, couldn't see what words he said, but they must have been important, and I sure wish that I could hear. Gonna buy myself a magic box by this time next year. And if it takes me longer, well, that's just how it goes. When I set my mind to something, everybody knows that I will make it happen. This head's not filled with rocks. I'll find a way to get the pay to buy my magic box. I'll chase some work for wages, take on some extra chores. And if that's insufficient, well, I'll take on even more. I'd bake some cakes, do what it takes. I'd scrub somebody's floor to earn the dough, the green cash flow, then hit the magic store. Of course, here in the country, there isn't much to do. Not much for money anyway. I'd better think this through. Well, I could hawk my box of treasures. I could trade my tiny cars. Heck, I'd fetch a pretty penny if I sold this old guitar. Yeah, I would fetch a pretty penny if I sold this old guitar.
All right, Craig Werth right here on Mostly Folk. Wow, great song. So that's a new song that you
Well, I wouldn't say it's not very new, but it hasn't been released on any recordings. I've just played it for friends and family mostly. So it will be on my next recording. That'll be one of the songs on it. So
fantastic. Make sure you send me a copy when
you betcha.
When that happens. Let's jump back to your high school days.
Yeah.
You had there a local music teacher, Dick Tucker, who I know that you certainly helped you a lot in your musical ventures.
Absolutely.
Talk a little bit about Dick, because he recently passed away, and unbeknownst to me, actually, being that I moved from the area, and I didn't know until you told me, because I didn't really, I wasn't on top of what was happening back in Hawkettsville and Margaretville.
Sure.
So talk about that.
He was. I'm glad you asked specifically. I was actually just talking with my wife about him this morning. He was one of those teachers, and I had a few in Margaretville. Not all of them, but Pete Palin was one. Dick Tucker was one. Who Mr. Morse, Dan Morse was one. Who really were present for students. Were really there. Were very compassionate and aware and attentive and supportive. So Dick Tucker was certainly one of those for me. I was in a chorus with him and a couple other things, and we just saw something. I think we appreciated in each other. He was so supportive of my playing and my singing, and he started with a couple other students. He gave me opportunities for extracurricular things to work on, to do some ensemble stuff with folk music and to play in school events. He'd help me get those opportunities and help me prepare. And he actually treated me sort of like a colleague. I'm not saying that we were peers truly. He was always I was appropriately a student, and we didn't cross any boundaries of friendship or something. He kept it very professional, but he also treated me with respect, and he respected my musicianship, and we would play some pieces together again with some other students from MCS, and he was just a huge influence, again, contributing to my confidence, which the Margaretville environment did anyway, but greatly facilitated by Dick Tucker, who was, again, kind and attentive and very generous with his time. So I was blown away when I did your radio program and you brought him in as a surprise guest that time. That's one of the highlights of my life, Artie, I'll tell you.
Oh, how great. That is so nice. That's good to hear, really. I'm sure for Dick, I know it was a thrill for him too to do that, to surprise you like that. And yeah, it was just a great time. So you went out, moved out to Massachusetts. You worked with David Francey. Do you still see David, or do any collaboration with him?
We haven't
David,
been yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
he did one of these with me.
did he really?
Yeah, a couple of months ago he was on. Yeah, he's a great guy.
He is a great guy. My goodness. Well, we've stayed very friendly. I actually, my wife and I returned to my home state of New Hampshire, and stayed in touch with David. We did a little bit of reunion work. I played with him at a festival in Massachusetts. We went down for I forget which one. It was a great festival in Massachusetts, and then we stayed in touch. I'm actually my wife Liz and I are gonna see him at 2 shows back to back in April here in New Hampshire, and he's he threatened to bring me up on stage. We'll see. I don't have a need to do that, but I do love any time that I can still play just about every song of his and sing along with it. So if I get a chance to sing with him, that'll be great. He's playing with two amazing accompanists, so they don't need any more talent on the stage, but I'll be so happy to see him. We love him to pieces. It'll be a nice reunion. Yeah.
He's got a great new album also. His album,
absolutely.
The Breath Between. It's just a beautiful album. And so that's so neat that you have that association with him.
Absolutely.
And otherwise, what are you doing? I mean, what are you doing to earn money these days?
Yeah,
certainly it's not music.
No, it's no. Thank you. You're right. Yeah. No, oh boy, so much has happened. And when I came off the road with full-time music, working with David, I was a bit lost. I didn't know what I was going to do next. I had left the field of higher education, and I didn't really want to go back to there. I didn't fit back there. I'd been out for 5 years, and anyway, long story short, a friend who knew me really well, sort of a mentor friend of mine, Joanne Connolly, asked me if I'd ever thought about becoming a chaplain. And I thought, no, I hadn't. But she saw in me just kind of a spiritual, caring individual. And a long story short, I indeed went to Chaplaincy Institute in Portland, Maine, and I became an interfaith chaplain, and then a little Unitarian Universalist church in New Hampshire asked me to be their pastor, and I was a UU pastor for 6 years. I just left that church last June, but that was an amazing journey. And then I became a clinically certified chaplain. Just recently, I went through all kinds of programming and got my clinical certification. I don't know exactly all I'm going to do with that, but I'm a board certified chaplain. I'm a pastor. And I use music in all of these things. I would compose things for, they're not religious songs really. They're more spiritual songs about hope and about connection and about compassion.
That's so great.
So I did a lot of that. And I also work at a center for people living with brain injury. And I use music. I teach classes in songwriting, and we write songs together. I'm presenting at a conference on that work coming up later this month on the use of songwriting to build community. And what else? Oh, and I work at the Chaplaincy Institute of Maine, the place that ordained me. I'm on their staff. I'm an academic advisor, and I'm the academic coordinator for the Institute. Chaplaincy Institute of Maine, just a quick, check us out. chimeofmaine.org. It's an amazing, again, it's interfaith. It's not preachy. It's not taking people down one particular path or another. It's just helping people who want to go out and provide service in the world.
Say that again. Say that website again.
It's the Chaplaincy Institute of Maine, and it's chimeofmaine, MAINE.org. And people can learn about, we start up new enrollment in every fall that people are, we're getting people calling up. Just check, you can check it out, take a look and see the work we do. It's all obviously nonprofit, and it's all service oriented to just serve the world.
How wonderful.
Wherever people are needed. Yeah.
You're the perfect person for that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Ray.
Do you have a website, by the way?
You know, I do, but the best place to find me is I do have a website, but I just don't keep up with it. So yeah, I would send people to craigwerth.bandcamp.com.
Okay. And they could find your records.
My collection is there, and more about me, and people get in touch with me through that. But craigwerth@icloud.com is the direct email to me.
Great. Yeah, because I'm sure people are going to want to get in touch with you.
I'd love to do some house concerts out in the homeland. You know, that would be lovely. Yeah. Yeah.
Let's hope that happens. Yeah. So how about another song for us?
Sure. Let's see if I'll be able to do a banjo number here. This is a song of mine from the Spokesman album. It's called "Good Old Dog." It's been around a long time, but it's just a very special song to me. The story in it is fictional, but the love of canines is very deep and genuine. Good old dog. Good old dog's done a lot of things. Saw his master shot, found a ruby ring. Crossed this river all by himself. Left 13 times, came back 12. My good old dog. Good old dog's got stubble teeth. Chewed sticks and stones like they were meat. Scraps he scraped from the stingy ground. He got half of anything I found. My good old dog. Good old dog's not the friendly kind, unless, of course, you were a friend of mine. He growled at things you could not see. You best trust his word and let him be my good old dog. Wounded, weary warrior in a world of sin. My kind of company, no finer friend to me. Good old dog's done a lot of things. Saw his master shot, found a ruby ring. Crossed this river all by himself. Left 13 times, came back 12. My good old dog, my good old.
All right.
Sure.
Good Old Dogs from Craig Werth. And that, once again, is on Craig's first album, The Spokesman. That's the album that Bob Akashek sat down in front of me and said, listen to this album. And aside from the song that Craig just sang, there's so many great songs on that album.
Thank you.
That you know folks would definitely be interested in. And if you don't have his music, Bandcamp, as Craig mentioned, is one of the sources that you could get it. Bandcamp is a great source.
You reminded me. I do want to say I'm pretty privileged as far as musicians go. Like I have day jobs and they don't pay a lot, but they're very rewarding, and I have ways to make money. I feel, though I want to be recognized for my art, financially by people who can afford it. But my heart really has gone out to the professional musicians who this was their primary living, and then got hit with a pandemic, and then are losing money from the sale of their art, which is by big company. That is heartbreaking. I haven't suffered nearly as much as so many thousands of people who are making that their central mission, music.
Yeah. So, any other things that you might want to mention that I haven't brought up during this talk?
Yeah, I appreciate that. I will say that maybe this is a little promotional, but one of my goals is to tour the country more with my wife, to be a guest pastor at generally it would be Unitarian Universalist fellowships and churches, and to do a concert in those places. So it would be a great way for Liz and I to have some time seeing different parts of the country, being in a community. I also love to deliver workshops on songwriting and creativity to people. So that's one of my hope when I finally retire eventually, maybe in 2 years, I don't know. I want to try to be at least 70.
Once again, tell folks how they can best get in touch with you.
Yes.
If they want.
Thank you. They can email me directly at Craig Werth, that's CraigWerth, at iCloud.com, or they can find my music at craigwerth.bandcamp.com. Most of my collection is up there, and you can listen for free. You're welcome to donate. I appreciate it. If you listen repeatedly, I ask that you do, but you can check out anything. You don't have to pay anything to hear what the music is.
Yeah. Well, I think once they hear the music, they're going to be locked into it if they haven't heard it before.
Oh, it's lovely. I just want to thank you, Artie. We would not be able to get our music out there without folks who are passionate and generous and supportive as you. And you've been there for years and years. And I have never forgotten that.
Thank you, Craig.
Appreciate this reunion very much.
Thank you so much. You're one of my favorite guys, and I'm just so thrilled that you joined me here today. So have a great rest of this day, and best of success with all of your endeavors in the future.
Same to you, Artie, and I look forward to our next reunion sometime, someplace.
Right. Sounds great to me. Have a great afternoon, Craig.
I'm the spokesman. Well, that's the joke. I don't make speeches and I don't blow smoke. I build these bikes out of parts I find. I build them well and I make them shine. With a spokesman, your ride is free. Put your pennies in your pocket, this one's on me. You can give a smile.